What's up, guys? Mudar, True Good Development. Before I start anything, let me preface by saying I'm not a Grant Cardone hater, and this is not a hate video. I like Grant Cardone, and I think him and I, and maybe other investors, agree on a big principle in investing, and that is the importance of cash flow. Cash flow is king, and that's true. We all also agree that cash loses value over time. If you have $1 today, chances are the purchase power of that dollar is going to diminish over time, is very high, just due to inflation. I thought this video is very timely in light of what we're all dealing with, the entire world is dealing with today, the COVID-19, the virus. And I want to talk about something that even though I'm a big fan, like I said, of Grant Cardone, and this is not a hate video, but I disagree with him on one principle, and that is reserve funds, the importance of having reserve funds, which is cash. So in a lot of his videos, he repeatedly talks about how cash is garbage and cash loses value. And look, while that's true, again, cash does lose value, it's not really garbage. It's important to have a reserve fund. So the purpose of this video is, again, in times where things are not so rosy like we had over the past few years, how important is it to really have that reserve fund? And you can and you see today how important that is in light of the virus and the recession and people freaking out about losing their jobs, rightly so. So let me talk about the importance of a reserve fund. It is extremely vital to have up to 6 months of reserves. So what you need to do, and maybe if you have that now, good for you. If you don't, use this as a lesson. Come up with all your expenses. Figure out what your expenses are, plus your pocket money, and multiply that by 6. It's simple. So the math is obviously very simple. It's the discipline to do it. And a lot of people don't, unfortunately. But you see the importance of that today. You need to have that shelter. It's the same thing. Look at yourself as a business. If you are a business running on the day-to-day expenses and profit, you're not going to survive. You need to have a reserve fund in the event people don't come to your business anymore for one reason or the other. A lot of businesses fall out of favor and they go into a transition period where they have to either, for example, let's use a restaurant that is hot and a lot of people are coming in for the past 5 years because there's no competition and nothing new in there. All of a sudden you had another restaurant that opens up that looks a lot nicer, with nicer interior, better customer service. All of a sudden you see that business losing a lot of its customers. Well, what's going to happen then is they're going to go into what I call a transition period. So they're either going to close for a few months to do some renovations, or they're going to have to discount their rates, or whatever the case may be. That's a transition period to get them back to where they can compete. So if they don't have that reserve fund, they're not going to be able to transition seamlessly. It's going to be a hard time for them, and smaller businesses could lose their business in times like this, where you go from this level of production and service to literally this here, zero, nothing, or close to zero. So think about yourself as a business. You lose your job, or you get laid off, or your employer comes to you and say, listen, we're gonna offer you half of your salary for the next 6 months so we as a business can transition through this period. And that's not highly unlikely. A lot of businesses are going to do that if they're not going to lay off a lot of their people. Well, you're going to go into a transition period to find another job. But during that time, you need to maintain your expenses. Forget your lifestyle. That's out the window. And you need to be disciplined to do that, right? So if you eat out 3 nights a week, well, guess what? You're not going to eat out at all, or you're going to eat out once every 2 weeks. That's lifestyle. That's out the window. You're concerned with just maintaining. So in that transition period where you're looking for another job, you need to dip into that reserve fund. So again, with all due respect to Grant Cardone, I'm a big fan of cash flow, 100%, and you need to have that. And if you've seen my other videos, I talk about building wealth rather than getting rich quickly. And there's no better way to building wealth than having residual cash flow. However, a reserve fund, cash is equally important in times like these because it could make you or it could break you. So do yourself a favor. Make sure you have a reserve fund. If you don't have it now, use this time to discipline yourself, change the way you do things, make your calculations, figure out what your expenses are, and plan ahead so when you're back on your feet, and hopefully you're not laid off and you're still working, but make sure to do that. Figure out your expenses over the period of 6 months and throw that in the bank. I hate to say this too because banks don't give you much interest, but that's fine. It's not there to make money. It's there as an insurance policy when situations are not as rosy. Well, I hope this helps you guys. If it does, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check out my other videos. I do property flips. If you want to know more about that, check out other videos that we have up, and I talk about how to do that and how to get into it. Guys, if you agree with what I'm saying, put a comment down. I like reading the comments. If you disagree, tell me why. Maybe there's other ways that you think are better than having a reserve fund. I'd like to know about that. See you on the next one.